Hi, I'm Dynasty Chef Steve, and this is the Sunday IDP Live, a proud partner of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network.
And welcome, IDP fantasy football fans. My name is Gary, a.k.a. the IDP Tipster via Twitter.
What's up, guys? It's Jordan Rains again. You can find me on Twitter at 50 Shades of Drunk. Sitting here with my man, Gary. We're going to drop some IDP knowledge on you guys this morning. We're just 1 week away from fantasy football. Well, and real football, I suppose. But more importantly, we're only 1 week away from fantasy football. I'm pumped. I'm stoked. I know I shut out last week's show, the Q&A, all hype as shit. So
yeah, that was interesting with Sam on last week, man. We went like 2 hours.
Yeah, that Q&A was fun.
Yeah. You had to take off and take care of your son.
I know.
We kept rolling for a while there, and it was really interesting. I think it was really one of our better episodes.
Yeah, Sam's got a good vibe to him, and I mean, you and I vibe well, but you and him, you guys were going at it, and I loved it. I mean, I was just sitting back, almost just listening to you guys. You guys had a good connection, so maybe he'll be back to join us
since last year. And yeah, me and him's always been. It was kind of like me and him, and me and Johnny the Greek. I always liked working with those guys last year.
Nice.
I don't know, though, man. I'm really starting to love working with you, Jordan. I'll tell you what, man. If you guys ain't out there following my man Jordan, or if you haven't been following Steve, I believe it's actually the Dynasty Chef Steve now on Twitter. It is the Dynasty Chef. Make sure that you are, because these guys have just really. I couldn't be here without either one of them. We wouldn't be entertaining you as well, and we wouldn't be able to bring the IDP. I appreciate everything these fellows have done.
Yeah, man, we're happy to be here. I know Steve is. I know I am. So I guess we'll jump into some news, and then we're going to go ahead and review some of give a little update on some of the dime drops we got on the website. As you know, we're a week away. I guess it's 8 days technically, but a week away from the season. So we'll just start with some, the big thing right now for IDP is Jadeveon Clowney, his holdout / pending trade / franchise tag not signing thing. There's been a couple of teams talking about him: Miami, Seahawks, Eagles. Apparently, he wants to stay with Houston, but Houston doesn't want to pay him. So he still hasn't practiced, which kind of sucks if you own him. You're a little worried about week one. I mean, I think it's in jeopardy now, but what do you think about this, Gary? I know last week we kind of thought this would all dissolve by now and something would have gotten done, but.
Yeah, I'm shocked Houston hadn't paid him. It's not like he hadn't deserved it. He might not be like the super top tier type dude for IDP, but definitely, for their team, I can't believe they haven't just pulled the trigger and gave him some money. And the wild thing is, just 5 years ago, people threatening to sit out, usually that did dissolve pretty quick, or it would dissolve at the beginning of the season. And after seeing LeVeon Bell do what he did and some of these other situations, you throw in the idea that Andrew Luck is retired, Gronk's quit, and all this stuff. These guys they're taking a different view of this. So we literally could see him sit out this season. I do believe that potential is starting to happen.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Like you said, the shift has happened. You never would have thought LeVeon Bell kind of, especially on the offensive side, I mean, he kind of put the blueprint up. And it's funny because this time last year, I know we're talking offense, but this time last year, it was Le'Veon Bell. I'll draft him comfortably. He'll be back. Don't worry. Well, he's done this before. He'll be back in a couple of weeks. And if you were saying anything but that, you were just laughed out of the community. Did he come back? Hell no. He never came back. And guess what? Everybody looked like a dumbass. But since everybody looked like a dumbass, nobody looked like a dumbass.
Yeah,
but
he rested all year.
He rested all year, and he got the last laugh because guess what? He got money. He got exactly what he wanted. He got out of Pittsburgh, which apparently Pittsburgh was a little bit of a situation. So I don't have the same people like, Zeke will be back. I keep seeing people say, I'm comfortable taking Zeke number 4 overall. I'm like, well, you obviously did not take LeVeon Bell 4 overall or 3 overall last year. Because anyone that did that is not touching Zeke this year, I promise you.
Yeah,
and same thing with Melvin Gordon. It's just like, why would you put yourself at risk? So talking IDP, I'm kind of getting that place with Clowney where, he is going to be a back end of my roster kind of guy. I think I have 2 more drafts this week, and he's going to be bench depth right now. Like, I'm not going to draft him even as my DL2,
Probably wouldn't have to. You probably would be able to just get him off the waiver wire.
Yeah, you got to think about this is real life for these guys. This isn't a big game, It's like, it's just $1 million. Well, the difference between $1 and $2 million to us, sounds meaningless and trivial, but to people with them and their lifestyle and their thought processes, that's a future, and this is they only have their leverage now. So I don't know. This is a weird situation. I hope he comes back. I hope he plays. He's too talented to miss, for us to miss. I don't want that. So
yeah, I don't think anybody does, but he probably doesn't either. But he definitely made a statement. He does not want to be traded to Miami.
Oh, who does? Ugh.
Yeah. Well, that leads probably into our next guy. Somebody wanting out of Miami right now.
Yeah. Somehow, speaking of Miami, apparently. Kiko Alonso said this last week or a week ago or 2 weeks ago in training camp, he wants out. He wants to be traded out. I guess Jerome Baker and McMillan have been in this Sam Ego. I heard somebody call him
my ego.
Yeah, that's kind of the nickname I guess we're gonna dub him throughout the community, which is a good name. Everybody loves a good ego. So Kiko's looking at less playing time and looking at younger guys coming up that may be a little more talented. He wants out. There are lots of teams that need linebackers right now. And there also there's a few good linebackers just kind of out there, but I guess he's on a team. He's in game shape right now. You think he's going to get traded? And if so, where do you anticipate him going?
Well, I mean, off the top, you can't blame the guy in a way if he's wanting to play. At the same time, if he's looking at a reduction in playing time, it maybe just he might have already lost his spot in even being on the field with the starting unit. The way it sounds and with this guy coming out saying this verbally, I mean, we got to stop and think that it's probably the McMillan, Sam, and Baker show this year. I personally expected this to happen. I thought it was going to be a longer process. I didn't think it would be right away. And that development of this ego and what he's been able to pull off is probably just, made it faster because they definitely have a viable third linebacker from the looks of it. So I don't know. I was in the process here of looking up his actual contract. It's large. It's large for what he does. Give me 1 second, possibly. But either way, you can't blame him for wanting out if he's wanting to continue his playing career. A lot of guys, they just sit back and just get paid and
they just want
watch
money.
What happens. Right.
Yeah, you gotta respect the fact that he wants to be out there playing. So
right. I believe the dead money. I don't see them just cutting them. I mean, he would have to be really disruptive because, the dead cap. I could be wrong here. Last year, yes, dead cap is $6,000 this year. He is signed through 2020. To drop him, his dead cap would be the $6 million, and he is marked his season, the third year of a $22 million contract. It's not as high as I thought it was going to be. He was making $6 million this year. That's a lot for somebody to take on with he's always produced, but he lacks. He's been beat up. He's been hurt. That's a lot of money to think that somebody, unless there's some kind of cap deal, or it'd have to be a really sweet situation, I think, to get traded.
Yeah.
At that cap. Who knows though?
Yeah. Exactly. Who knows what's going to happen? I guess maybe today, even after we record this, something will happen. It's kind of the big cut day, so we'll see.
Right. Right.
Let's see what else we got here for news. Jason Pierre-Paul, apparently he's been cleared to, I don't think practice, but he's on the PUP or the NFI, so he will be playing this season.
Yeah,
somehow.
He's on that schedule.
Even though his neck was fractured, in May, it's kind of crazy to think that he's going to be back out there, but he is. He's not. He's built different, that's for sure.
Right. Yeah. We'll probably see him like at November or something, I think.
Yeah. So that's good news. I mean, if you have an IR spot, and he's on your waivers, he's probably worth putting there just because, he's a huge producer, when he's on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got news wise. D Ford apparently has been cleared to practice, so hopefully he's out there week 1. I don't know if that confirms he will or won't be, but he's cleared to practice. So,
well, San Francisco fans better hope he is.
Yeah, he's got a pretty nice matchup week 1 against the Bucs. So,
yeah,
maybe they won't even need him and they'll rest him one more week.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man. I've did these. You mentioned that I haven't done the start sit charts for all 32 teams just yet. I'm getting ready to start them really soon, folks. So for our members out there, and for the first few weeks, this is free to everybody because it takes the first few weeks to really get up to date current information for this 5-step formula that we do. But either way, I did do the odds makers, and I'll tell you, I think what I do. I did 4 of them, and like 3 out of the 4, the Buccaneers and Niners defensive players by the numbers, especially from last year that they were made from. Now, there's no opinion in these. These are completely based off the data from last year. The San Fran and Bucks were in the top 10 of being able to produce the first week. So you guys might want to go check those out while they're free to everybody right now. Maybe consider subscribing and becoming a member, and we'll make sure that members come first. But I just thought I'd mention that. Yeah, they're lined up. They're lined up.
We got some good stuff behind. We have a lot of good stuff for free, but we do have some even nicer stuff behind our paywall. It's not a lot to get back there, guys, and it can definitely help you. Like as Gary says, split those IDP hairs, figure out exactly who's, what's that last grain of salt or, sand that's going to put this guy over the edge versus this guy. So,
and those like the 32 team charts, man, they become so much more relevant around week 3, week 4, when we have all the new data coming in for this season and the bye weeks start. That is when you have to split the hairs. Before then, it's don't sit a stud, Yeah, but after that, especially during those bye weeks, you've got to make sure that you've got those IDP lineups maximized and possibly, you got to find bye week players in a lot of cases when it comes to IDP, because you just don't stack up your rosters usually in standard size leagues. So you got to know your best option to try to shoot for.
Yep. All right, let's see what else we got for news. We got Alec Ogletree recovering from his calf strain. So he's supposed to be ready to start the season, they say. So that's pretty good news for your linebacking core. He's kind of more of your linebacker 3-4 kind of guy. I'm not really wanting him to be somebody to lead my team, but I'm perfectly happy with him on my team.
He's in my top 32, but I don't really tier him anything. I just go with those top 32 in each position. And he's really just in there by default at this point because of his position on the team. The guy's definitely lost a little bit of his step over the last couple of years. He'll still probably produce if he can stay healthy, but he's only made that top 32 out of default.
Yeah. And another guy with a little bit of a banged up problem is Hassan Redick. High draft pick for the Arizona Cardinals, hasn't really hasn't really panned out, but at the same time hasn't really been given a lot of opportunity to pan out. He played some weird snaps last couple of years. His snap play was, I mean, he had games where he was in like single digit snaps or something, which is kind of crazy to me. I don't know what the heck was going on with their coaching situation last year. Some of these guys just, never given a shot, and now he's getting a shot with Clint Kingsbury, and he's hurt, so we're not sure if he's going to play week 1. I've had him on a couple of teams, but I ended up having to drop him on a team because I just needed to move somebody, and I didn't think he'd get picked up. He got picked up, but then the guy who picked him up dropped him again, so he's out there. So he's on my go get list right now. So
yeah, I mean, if he can get back on the field, assuming that the news is real, that they wanted to put him in there to inside linebacker and keep him there, period, that's big. Jordan Hicks is notorious for getting hurt, and it is unfortunate because the prior regimes, they just used Redick in some screwed up way when the guy is clearly talented. If they would just use him, it's kind of like Cunningham in Houston. Another guy came out that same year. He was supposed to be concentrating a lot more on the inside linebacker position too, and now we got this Clowney or Clooney news or whatever, and they're notorious for using Cunningham where they have to. So his play time, which it'll play out if he's playing outside linebacker, he takes a drop. It's unfortunate for these two young gentlemen. They seem to be mirroring each other's problems, trying to become relevant.
Yeah, well, maybe they'll both break out, and we'll all get that feeling that we've wanted of satisfaction out of them.
Right,
and their teams can get that feeling too, that they didn't waste a pick. So
yeah, right, yep.
That's kind of the end of our relevant IDP news for the week. I mean, I'm sure there's a couple other deeper things out there, but we want to focus on this show, or we want to get back around to reviewing or catching up or updating on some of the dime drops that Gary did over the summer. Or I think you started these dime drops back in like February or March, didn't you?
Yeah. There are quite a few of them that I just started end of February, March.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know our dime drops, it's Gary's dime, 10 minutes. He talks about a player that you should be aware of, based on either his situation, based on either his production. Maybe he's not a guy. These aren't guys that you're just going to see at the top of anybody's list, really, of like, hey, this guy's awesome. And we're not saying either this guy is somebody you should go get and put right into your lineup. But these are guys that, based on their production and based on their situation, they could end up being that for you. They could end up being that guy that's in your lineup every week in your IDP flex spot. During bye weeks, these guys are guys that you're going to want on your team that, you can slide in and, based on what we've seen and what we've noticed and what we've watched, that are going to be good for your team. So we're just going to go ahead and give you a little update on some of these guys, because some of them, got a little banged up in the offseason. Some of them maybe moved teams or whatever. So we're just going to walk through this list with you, and I'm going to rattle them off and let Gary kind of give you guys his update. Plant his flag, I guess. In these guys again, he's had his flag planted in a lot of them for a while, but
I'm just want to update everybody on these. I want to mention, and Jordan was correct. It was a dime drop. I give the 10-minute take in videos, but because of scheduling and just trying to get the job done, I have changed these to article forms over the last couple of weeks, and you can, if you're a member, you get access to them right off the top as soon as I post them, and then I usually wait at least one waiver wire week, and then I release them to the general public. I'm actually going to start pumping the brakes a little bit more on that because it is members first. And completely correct. These aren't guys that you just run out and expect to be in your starting lineup week 1, but they are going, in my opinion, be relevant, at least at the time that I made the dime. And that's how we get the edge, is finding players like this, allowing you to trade away the names or injury replacements or bye week plays or whatever it is. They got something about them that I thought was worth talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's go ahead and start with one of the all-stars of this list, Kamu Grugier-Hill from the Eagles, inside linebacker. Give us a little update on him. How's he doing? How's he looking? How you feeling?
Well, I actually had to reach out directly because I couldn't find any local or recent reports on him. So from the beat writers in that area, so I actually reached out to one, and the last that they had said was that he was not on crutches. He still had a brace on his knee, and he's just hanging out. He's getting healthy. So
Just chilling.
Just chilling. Now the reports are, with him still not practicing, they still stand. He's probably still going to miss the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season. I doubt 4, but hopefully around that 3. And you really need to be ready to get this guy off the waiver wire right before bye weeks. I still love his potential for the rest of the season. He's not going to end the year in the top tier linebackers or tackle amounts just because he's going to be missing some games. But if he comes back healthy and they insert him in there, he's going to roll out the rest of the season with linebacker 1 numbers at the middle linebacker position. So I'm still standing on him. We just got to wait for this to play out and hope that he stays healthy.
Yep.
But his position is secure as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with you 100%. I think that, they haven't really done anything at their linebacker spot. They lost a guy. I don't know. There's too many Fosters and Browns that play linebacker in the NFL. Yeah. I'm not even going to lie to you. So I'm kind of confused. But I know they lost one or gained one somewhere along the way. Yeah. Kamu Grugier-Hill, though, I looked at his numbers too last year, and he was one of your first dime drops, and then, I was kind of came aware of. And when he's on the field, he produces like a beast, Yeah. For whatever reason, he doesn't get a lot of opportunity to be on the field. So I don't know if he's talking shit to the coach in the background. I don't know if he's missing little things that I'm missing. I'm not a football expert per se. I'm not an NFL coach. I don't know if he's hitting the right angles. I can't, I can't put this under a microscope and dissect it. All I can see is a guy who, when he's out there, produces. So we got to hope that with the guys leaving, he can get out there more and produce more. So he's going to be cheap as hell right now too, because he's been hurt. So he's probably on your waiver wire, or somebody will give him to you for peanuts. So I'm looking. I know this week I'm looking to make a couple of moves to get him on some teams personally. So I don't know if that gives anybody any sort of confidence to do the same, but do it. What's the worst?
And I'll be letting our members know. I'll be keeping track of what's going on with him. So, even if he does manage to stay on your waiver wire for the next week or two, I'll let you know as soon as he's back to practice. And that should be like a week before or so before he'll ever play. Trying to let you guys know to pick him up, get him on your waiver wires if you need him, or get him off the waiver wires if you need him, and be ahead. Because usually how waiver wires happen is all of a sudden somebody returns, they have a big game, and then everybody goes and puts a claim in on them. Mm-hmm. You got to be ahead of the game by just knowing that, well, he's ready. He's going to be out there and take the chance that what I'm saying or we're saying is correct.
Yeah, I get there a week ahead.
And I had Grugier-Hill on the radar last year. I had him on the radar last year. I actually wrote about him last year, did a big thing. So, and he did perform. He just looks like a beast amongst men out there. He is fast. He's a sixth rounder. I believe, he was a sixth rounder out of a small school. The Patriots got, and the Eagles claimed him off the waiver wire when Patriots tried to put him on the practice squad that his rookie season, and they haven't let go of him yet. And the guy's just done nothing but develop. So these are those edge-splitting type players that we can get a hold of.
Yep. Another guy, let's go ahead and go to the next dime drop guy. Another guy that a lot of people, or you've been on for a long time, is Foye Oluokun.
Yep.
What's up with him? What's the situation looking like?
Well, the last I seen, because there wasn't much coming out on him, he had been hurt right before the preseason or during the preseason at the beginning, and he sat out like 3 games. He's back. I guess he actually played this last game, so they're just getting him acclimated again from being off, and I still suspect that he'll have the same type of role. I think that he's going to have just as much production as he did last year, if not more of a role, next to Deion Jones. So this ought to be interesting. I'm not as high on him as I am Grugier-Hill. When you're playing next to Deion Jones, that's going to be impossible. And then you got Neal playing strong safety in there too. There's going to be a lot of competition for that production, except for Jones. He'll probably get his off the top. But still, everything's on track. We'll just have to see how this develops over the first few weeks. But I expect him to remain relevant to a point that we need to keep an eye on him.
Yep, agreed. I have him on a couple of rosters too. He's another guy. When he's on the field, he produces. And he's fairly cheap. So,
yep,
go snag him if you can. Let's see here. This guy we talked about not too long ago, a couple of weeks back. I don't know if it's Ty or Tae, Tae, Tae Davis, I guess is what I'll call him, for the Giants. What's got any updates on him?
Well, other than the fact that he is still penciled in to be in there next to Ogletree, which is the elder, long in the tooth, kind of lost to step type dude. He's going to be in there. He's supposed to start, and he's supposed to be a 3-down weak inside linebacker. So there's just potential. That's what that boils down to. If you're on the field and you're in a position like that and you're on there for every snap, the production will happen. So hopefully we might see some upper tier linebacker 2 type numbers out of him.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of compare his role in the defense should be similar to the Bears weak side inside linebacker Danny Trevathan. So I just like Davis's upside being next to Ogletree instead of Danny being next to Roquan Smith. So a little bit more potential there for Davis if he can hold on to that.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. He could be a big breakout this year. Giants suck. No, I don't think anybody's going to argue with me on that.
Yeah,
so
you can't be in an argument, no.
Their defense is going to be on the field a lot, so he's going to be given the chance to be somebody for IDP this year. So hopefully he can pan out for us. All right, another guy we got here. We got Tracy Walker. He's a safety for the Lions, right?
Yeah.
Yep. He's
free safety.
Free safety. I don't know if he's a starter. I know he started the season maybe a little lower on the depth chart. I haven't looked. Lions put a bad taste in my mouth, so I don't want to offend anybody, but I don't really look towards the Lions often personally.
Right.
So I couldn't really tell you. I have him on one or two of my teams. He's a bench guy, Tracy. But what are you kind of projecting for him, and what's the current or the undertones coming out of camp?
He's been penciled in as a starter since OTAs back in the spring. I actually did this dime drop before OTAs. I could try to get him on the radar. He's a second-year safety. He didn't get a lot of playing time last year. He did make some plays when he was on the field, and then Glover Quinn turned around and retired. And
I was going to say that's the guy he's taking over for, right?
Right,
Quinn.
right. So as soon as that happened, that's when I definitely went in and looked at him again from the prior year to see what was going on, and I figured that he was lined up to start this out this year as the free safety. And as of course, right now he still is. He has some growing to do, but I like that position in that defensive scheme. Or I wouldn't bring it up. Just like you mentioned, you can't get a lot of good IDPs off of the Lions usually because of what they do, especially since Patricia has taken it over. He was notorious of only allowing one or two little IDP plays in New England. But I definitely like Diggs and I like Tracy Walker. I think he is definitely right where he should be, as you mentioned on your roster, as just sitting there. Let him prime, probably the first guy off your bench if you have a bye week or an injury, because Glover Quinn, he ate in that division for a free safety. He made it relevant enough to take notice of Tracy Walker having this position this year. So status quo, last I checked, he's still holding on to that job, and we're just going to have to watch what happens the first couple of weeks of the season. They do have some other rookie that I think was a third rounder this year or possibly, but apparently he hasn't shown for whatever reason. I don't know if he's injured or he's not getting any playing time.
Nice. All right. Well, there's one, like I said, several of these guys that you're on your dime drops I've got on my team. So I'm sure other people have taken note and probably have stashed them too. So
Sweet.
Here's another guy, Avonte Maddox. He's a guy. I know you're not a big cornerback guy. Isn't he a corner, or is he playing some safety, or how's this working out here?
Well, how he got on my radar last year, and I wrote about him last year, was that, it was a midseason type pickup because the free safety, McLeod, I think is his name, McDonald or whatever, for
McLeod,
the,
Ray
yeah,
Ray.
he went
Mm-hmm.
down. But prior to him going down, they were having some injuries in the secondary at the cornerback position. And Maddox, which I think is a third or fourth rounder out of Pittsburgh or something, he kind of he has this all around skill set. And they started using him, and they had to use him. And he really lived up to it. And he was playing free safety for most of the end of last year because of the injuries. And he had the momentum coming into this year. And I didn't really expect him to be a safety. But my point, because as Jordan mentioned, I do not do cornerbacks, but I'm surely not going to just shy away from somebody that I think has the potential to be a sneaky cornerback play. So when it comes to Maddox, I really think that as a cornerback play, with the option that he can play the free safety, nickel, or the outside corner, he's going to be semi-relevant at the beginning of the season. And the way that things usually go with Philadelphia, I bet he finishes out the season pretty strong. It is a cornerback, so I always suggest going with the matchups over anything until you get your hands on one of these kids or guys that just seem to produce no matter what the matchups are. But there are far few between. Cornerbacks are dime a dozen, in my opinion. But Maddox, definitely, the news coming out right now is that he is rotating outside corner and the main nickel or slot guy. So considering the type of defense that Philadelphia runs, he'll be on that field a lot. I mean, he's not going to be an 85, 90% guy, probably, percentages of snap counts, but he's definitely going to be out there around that 70 mark, in my opinion. And he's going to offer up in that division. I think he's going to offer up some decent, solid, consistent cornerback play. They do like him, and he's getting the job done. So status quo on the dime drop.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on all that. And it's interesting because, we talk about how their linebacker core is not great. In some ways, that kind of does give guys like him a little boost. These corners are they're just asked to do a little bit more, and even if that's one or two more tackles a game, that's huge, I mean, it really is, especially for
Definitely
a corner. And it's funny, there's another guy on the Eagles that I have on one of my teams. His name's Rasul, Rasul. He's another one of their corners, and for whatever reason, he had some pretty big games at the end of last season with a lot of high tackles for a corner. So I've thrown him on the end of a few of my benches in leagues where I have to have a corner. He's usually the only corner that I have on my roster that's not in my starting lineup, just because I don't know, maybe I'm going to catch some fire there. But I got my eye on Maddox too. But people are Maddox is a little bit more owned than this other guy, so that's probably why I've ended up with him more than Maddox.
Yeah. It was like last year, I don't do the corners, but I seen it earlier that last year, Carolina rookie Dante Jackson, I was reading. You can't ignore this stuff. You're reading and seeing all these reports on this cornerback, and he lit it up last year as a rookie, and he should still be on that radar for people to pick up and try to use this year until he does have the skill set to become a shutdown corner. So just keep that in mind. I think you're going to get some production out of him as a corner this year. But at some point, if he keeps making these plays like he did last year, the quarterbacks are going to start, going the other direction, which is going to hurt him, make him a shutdown corner, and then there goes his IDP value. Just a little tidbit there.
Yep. Well, we have this other guy here who I'm not even going to bullshit you. I'm not really familiar with this guy at all. Rashaan Gaulden. Tell me what's up with Rashaan Gaulden, why he should be on my radar, why maybe he should be stashed on my bench. What's the situation like?
Well, this is one of the dime drops that didn't quite work out the way that I thought it was going to. entering the season, when I did that dime drop, I thought that he had a hell of a potential to become one of the starting safeties, probably the free safety after Reed was signed last year. And they did have him early in the spring. He was playing the free safety position and rotating in and out, but mainly with the first group. Since then, Trey Boston was out there. We talked about him earlier when they got signed. He is definitely penciled in now as the free safety. And what they have been doing, they've been using Gaulden in there, which is a second-year player. They've been using him as the nickel back or playing him in the slot. So he is still in their picture. He's still going to get playing time from the looks of it. But this happens to be one of those dime drops that is not going to work out so well, probably in the end of what I was anticipating, basically because Trey Boston was out there and they signed him. I don't think they were disappointed in Gaulden. I think that they had the money. They seen Trey Boston. They needed depth, and Trey Boston just happened to be more than depth for them to be able to pick up. So, still on the radar. I don't think that right at this moment I would have him sitting on any of my waiver, or not sitting on my waiver wire. Sorry, I would not have him sitting on my bench right now. We need to see what happens.
True. Yeah, like we said, this is why we're going through this list. Some things have changed. So
right, I can't hit them all. If I could hit them all, I'd be in Vegas. Yeah. I wouldn't be sitting here having this great conversation.
Oh, well, here's a guy I think that you're going to hit a pretty much home run with. Josey Jewell, linebacker for the Broncos. We got a dime drop on him. You've been on him for a while. His situation seems to just keep getting better and better, but go ahead and inform the folks, lay some truth on him.
Right. Yeah, just another one of those guys like Agholor and Grugier-Hill, but actually Josey Jewell was probably one of my first. They weren't called dime drops last year. But I wrote an article about Josey Jewell. I really liked his potential going into last season. I didn't think Brandon Marshall was going to amount to shit, which we'll mention real quick. Everybody noticed that the Raiders have cut Brandon Marshall.
Yeah, I was going to say something about that earlier. I completely forgot.
Kept trying to warn people. I wouldn't have expected them to be cut, but I didn't expect him to be relevant. I figured it'd be the Whitehead perfect in the end. And apparently, Brandon Marshall, he was good for a season or so in Denver, and then he's just been hurt. And, Denver releasing him, it just put another negative on it. So unfortunate for anybody that really thought Brandon Marshall going to Oakland was going to amount to much. But either way, Josey Jewell is he's lined up. I have looked. The one thing that I've been paying attention to is the main guy that produced for him at middle linebacker last year was Tae Davis, the run stopper. He really kicked up his game. He was a lot better in coverage. And as of right now, they are saying that he'll be ready week 1. So with that being said, that does hurt Josey Jewell a little bit. But this could play out. Tae Davis hadn't been on the field for preseason, so he hasn't been able to practice. He hasn't been able to do anything.
Exactly.
This is a veteran. It doesn't take long to get his legs back underneath him.
But this could be the opportunity that Josey Jewell has been waiting for. Yep.
Right. And even if Tae Davis is the main run stopper, Josey Jewell is still going to be at that weak side inside linebacker position. It's still the Denver Broncos defense with one hell of a. You got Von Miller and Chubb on the pass rush.
There's going to be disruption everywhere.
Yeah, so we're splitting the hairs. If he was to remain the Mike guy, the Mac linebacker, we would probably see upper low linebacker 1. Middle of the field linebacker 1 numbers. If he's the will inside linebacker next to Tae Davis, we're probably just talking upper linebacker 2 numbers. Definitely still somebody in a dynasty stash for sure.
Nice. Yeah, he's a guy. Again, several of these guys I have on my roster, several of them I don't. But Josey Jewell,
And Josey Jewell's name's everywhere now. I talk to the IDP community all the time. You see this stuff out there on Twitter. He is definitely on every. So this dime drop I did, I think, was my first dime drop. I did it last February, I believe, at the end of the February when we started the site. He is out there. This is no secret. I'm sure you guys have heard this name, but I do want to note I wrote about him last summer before this one. And when he first got drafted, got him on the radar, and then I did the other dime drop in January, hopefully giving our members an edge.
Yeah. He's going to be out there week 1 against the Raiders. Now, I don't know how people feel about the Raiders. I feel like they are not that great. Maybe they have talent, sure. They have personality, sure. But I have a feeling that he's going to be one of those guys where, like you said, people are going to be rushing to their waivers week 1 whenever, he recovers 2 fumbles and takes one back for a touchdown or something. It's going to be like that. I feel like they're going to start hot. So maybe, if you got some cut situations or you're splitting hairs and trying to figure out who you want on your team, Josey Jewell is a guy that, after week 1, he might not ever be available again. It might be like that for him.
And on the other side of the spectrum, what Jordan said, we do know Oakland could suck. We don't know what they're going to do. So if Denver goes in there and dominates with Chubb and Miller, maybe Jewell doesn't have a super strong week 1, but it won't take long. So just keep that in mind. That's a 50-50 situation on week 1 for me. Oakland is just, it's hard to tell what Gruden comes out and does. If they just go pass happy, Jewell might not get that much.
Yeah, so that game is late. That's that second Monday night game at 9:20. Ugh. You're gonna be up till midnight watching this game if you do that. But we're degenerates, so we probably will.
I wouldn't risk going and playing him that week 1 either.
I wouldn't play him week 1, but I would definitely be aware of where he is week 1.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So, let's go ahead and keep moving down this list. Next guy we got here is Xavier Woods. What's the situation with Xavier Woods? What's the update? How did training camp and the offseason treat him?
Well, the dime drop on him was not the fact that he was going to be a starter or somebody to pay attention to, because he played a lot last year. He's a 6th rounder, I think, out of Louisiana Tech or something. He's one of Jerry Jones's kids that he just liked. He was a playmaker, ball hog type kid in college, and he got to develop last year. And he is definitely penciled in. He's not penciled on. He is inked in as one of the starting safeties, the free safety position, actually. And I think the reason, I know the reason that I made the dime drop on him is he's going to improve those numbers from last year. And I think he's going to improve those numbers to make him relevant enough that people will want to have him as at least their first guy off the bench. Possibility. I think that his ball playing skills, after what I've known about him for the last couple of years, I think that he has that ability, that the extra playmaking and interceptions, passes defended, other than just the regular tackles, is really going to get this kid on our radar. So that was really all it is. And it still stands. I think Xavier Woods will have be a more predominant safety or defensive back for IDP this year.
Nice. Well, we'll definitely keep him in mind. We'll have to monitor some of these guys throughout the first couple of weeks. Maybe we can do a show and revisit how they're doing, maybe, quarter way through the season or something.
Sure.
Next guy is another guy that, he's not necessarily in a starting position, but he could be somebody special, I think, if he's given the opportunity. And that's Jermaine Carter.
Right.
Linebacker for the Panthers. So what's his situation looking like?
Well, I do believe that I mentioned in this dime drop particularly that this was one of those, it's going to unfold during the season, I think. The potential is still there. Reportedly, he is directly Luke Kuechly's backup. He's been getting a lot of play time. He did start the camp off with a hamstring injury or something, but since he's been back the last couple of weeks, he's getting a lot of playing time. Has he been lighting it up? No, but he's been solid. And it's who they're depending on, who the Panthers are as their first guy off the bench. If something would happen to Shaq Thompson or Kuechly, whatever. So either way, my dime drop is I think that Carter can be solid enough, and Shaq has not necessarily lived up to his first round hype for his career, that either this year or next year that we could see Carter in there as the second linebacker next to Luke Kuechly. I think that it's a possibility that we could keep this kid on the radar, for the fact is that Shaq Thompson does miss games each year. He's just, everybody wants him to break out. They have for years. And he's just not. Thomas Davis being there has not only been his reason for not breaking out. He had the opportunity last year with Thomas Davis being suspended the first few seasons, and lo and behold, or first few games, and lo and behold, as soon as Thomas Davis got back, Shaq Thomas was benched, basically, or his role changed. He didn't get to play. If you're going to break out, I know Thomas Davis is not a slacker. He is a good player, even if he's older. But I think that Shaq Thompson is a replaceable talent, and I think Carter could very well do that. Nice. And it still stands. It's something that has to play out.
Yeah, in Dynasty, he's definitely got to keep an eye on, or on your bench. And, for bye weeks, like you said, somebody gets a concussion, all of a sudden you're sitting there with 80 to 90% snap playing linebacker. I mean, that's a good place to be.
Yes, it is.
All right, let's go on to another guy here, Jarrod Wilson, or I don't know, it's J-A, two R's kind of throw me off, but I guess it's Jarrod Wilson, safety for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's been one of your earlier dime drops. Yep. What's the drumbeat on for this guy? He looking good, looking bad?
Well, as soon as they signed this kid, that's why I did this dime drop, and I looked at him hard. I knew about him last year a little bit. He was getting some play time after they let Church go, and he inserted Ronnie Harrison as the strong safety the whole time. But they started getting Jarrod Wilson some playing time last year. He's a long-time special teams journeyman kind of for the team. But they paid this kid. I think it was like $2 million a year or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but it was enough to catch my attention. And that is not a special teams. I don't care how good you are on special teams. If you're not part of the defense or offense, you don't get that type of money out of them. Mm-hmm. So normally. So I looked into him a little bit stronger, and he graded well. He did well, and I just knew that they probably were going to use him as the free safety, which is a pretty productive position for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The last couple of years, I can't remember the guy's name. He's not there now. He's in Houston, but he'd been producing some decent numbers, probably because of the state of the Jacksonville offense. But either way, he is definitely somebody that we need to keep an eye on. Top DB2 numbers is not out of the question, just by default. Like I mentioned, the production is there in this position with that defense in Jacksonville. So, and he is still penciled in there. He productive by default. Whether or not his talent is as good as what he got paid, who knows? But I mean, that's not our concern. Our concern is to have IDP players. So definitely a guy that I'm still suggesting that you could have as a first guy off the bench. I like Tracy Walker better, but there's still potential here. Tracy Walker is just a better talent, I think.
There's kind of a riches of IDP players or potential IDP players for Jacksonville for a couple of reasons. I mean, their defense is already good. Like, we know that. Like, that's just kind of, even though they weren't great last year, they're still one of the better defenses. They have a not very good offense. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be that much better, but their defense should be on the field a lot. Right. And we're losing Miles Jack. There's 100.
You mean Telvin Smith?
Telvin Smith. Sorry. Yeah.
That's all right. Jack's gone. And Quincy Williams, folks, Quincy Williams did return to practice this past week.
Mm-hmm. But there's going to be tackling opportunities. There's going to be playmaking opportunities for the rookie Josh Allen, for Jarrod Wilson, who signed his contract, moving to free safety. Ronnie Harrison, he's a Alabama safety, I believe. They have they want big things for him. Miles Jack, I expect him to have 120 plus tackles this year. Quincy Williams just came back from his injury. I think he could push, the 90, 95 tackles, maybe even more, depending on if he's as talented as they're talking like he was a couple of weeks ago before he was hurt, and if he gets the snaps. So there's IDP production to be had kind of all over that field. And, Jarrod Wilson right now might be the cheapest one. And that's not to say he might not even be the best one. So,
I'm sure right now, unless somebody happens to be a Jacksonville fan, or they have maybe listened to me, because I have not seen anything else out there amongst the community about Jarrod Wilson. So I'm going to take a wild gamble that he's sitting on 99% of the waiver wires right now.
Well, I know he's on my watch list on pretty much all my leagues. I don't know how many I own him in right now.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Can't own them all.
No, you can't. And that's one of the it's funny. Every year I do this thing where it's like, or off season, I put a guy on my team, or I get 2 or 3 guys on my team, and I'm hype. I'm loving it. Mm-hmm. And then, somebody, and all of a sudden a blurb comes out, oh, so-and-so's looking good. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So, I'm like, okay, who's getting cut, and I cut this guy, and I'm like, well, maybe no one will notice. And then, the next day my phone goes off, so-and-so's been claimed off waivers. And I'm like, there goes what's-his-face. And then, 6 weeks later, he's a top, 10 guy. And you're like, man, remember when he was on my team and I fucked that all up? That was great.
Right. and like we said at the beginning about these dime drops, all these players or guys are high potential. I know we're busting nuts on them, and we're telling, watch these guys, get these guys, and blah, blah, blah. Keep in mind, the reason these guys are on the waiver wire is because most smart people doing IDP are going to fill their limited spaces for their IDP players with these known and productive players like, the big wigs, the big guys. Mm-hmm. So these guys that we're mentioning, they all have this potential. That is why some of them are on the waiver wires. We're just getting you the edge ahead of time. My favorite move is to take some name like, I don't know, this year would be Jordan Hicks or Alexander up here in San Fran, and use that name and throw them as a bone and improve my offense. Like if I wanted an upgrade at wide receiver, I'll take the loss. I'll just give them. I'll overpay with that linebacker if they really want him, because I know that there's players like Tracy Walker and Oakland and Grugier-Hill or whoever out there that I can replace a lot of this production and you on the defense, and that balances out. So you get almost the same production as you would as moving a stud for nothing, just by simply picking them up off the waiver wire. But then you probably did that by going from a wide receiver 2 to a wide receiver 1 numbers, which put you out even farther ahead on a weekly basis in scoring. So, there's all kinds of angles to this. There's reasons we do this. And there's another reason why we just don't sit here and continuously hype up the known. I realize that there are people brand new to IDP that don't know who maybe Edmonds up in Buffalo is, or who Miles Jack is, or Van Der Esch, so they do need that information. But we go deeper than that here at the IDPtipster.com. It's something that I've loved to do, and that's why I do these dime drop type things and try to put people on the radar. And I'm patting myself on the back. I have a lot of luck at this. So I'm hoping that this really helps people that are members of the IDPtipster.com. I'm still dropping dimes. And to let you know, right now I have a hot ass dime take and a IDP dime article drop on a couple of different players right now that is not out to the public. They're sitting on the website for our members first, and they're going to sit there for a little bit so that people can have that edge. That's just how it is. Members first. So consider it. Mm-hmm. I'd appreciate it.
We got one more guy here, Jordan Evans, or Justin Evans or Jordan Evans.
Oh, it might be Justin. I might have typoed that one there.
All right. Go ahead and give us your take.
Weak side linebacker for this is a recent one, and this one was kind of wild for me to see. I'm not sure. When I looked at my recent drafts, there was, I've had like 3-4 redrafts in the last month and a half or something like that. He was on the waiver wire in like all but one of them. And I thought, well, why is this? Because to me, he was at least a late round pickup. I think that I'm not sure why he is not getting any love. But if he's the weak side inside or weak linebacker in the 3-4-3 scheme next to Preston Brown and Vigil, he's going to be relevant. I'm not sure if he starts out the season actually as an every down player. But I've never been impressed with Preston Brown. He was productive by default in Buffalo. He got hurt last year coming to Cincinnati and fell off the map. Granted, the news is that he has lost some weight. He's ready for the season, but that's just hype news. So I don't think that does anything for his coverage skills or his speed that he lacks. And Vigil, he can't stay on the field. He can't stay on the field every year. He's gotten hurt. He's missed multiple games since Marvin Lewis got him into the lineup a couple of years ago. So I like Evans. Evans is fast, man. I in that dime drop, he ran a 4.5. 40 coming out of college. The video is on the article, but he's a big dude too. If I remember right, he's something around the range of 6'3", 250 or something. That is huge to be running 4.5 at that size. And his first year in 2017, he got a little bit more playing time than he did last year, and he actually was praised about his coverage skills. I believe it was PFF. They gave him positive grades and complimented him. Now, he did not do that last year, but who could blame the kid if you're sitting there watching Marvin Lewis play his favorites and not actually trying to develop or get him on there? He probably lost a little bit of interest. And that is one knock on him, is that he doesn't always take on the hits. From what I understand, I think it's changed. I think he's seen a new opportunity with the new coaching regime coming into Cincinnati. The door is open. He's penciled in as that weak side inside linebacker or the weak linebacker in that 4-3 scheme. And just by that alone, that can put in a lot of production. I wouldn't be surprised that within half the season, that's all we're here. Vigil's probably going to be nicked up. Preston Brown's probably only going to be a 2-down thumper, and it's going to be a lot of Evans production. I really like this.
Nice. Yeah, he's a guy that I've had my eye on for a while, but I'm pretty good at safeties right now on most of my teams, but he's out there. Yeah. Well, let's see here. You had a couple more dime drops, kind of team dime drops. You covered the Skins, the Ravens, the Giants. Do you want to just kind of hit on, your highlights from those? I know at least one or two of those guys got brought up already.
Right. Yeah. Basically, we're going through the Giants real quick. I believe I talked about the defensive lineman B.J. Goodson and Devalian Thomason or something. Yeah, they're status quo. They're going to be on there. How they play is how they play, I guess. I mean, it was realistically just mentioning the whole dime drop was about the youth movement with the Giants. And I did do a little drop on Tae Davis, which we did just cover. Mm-hmm. And I ended up doing another dime on personally because he did win that position. So, hey, so far so good on a hit one. And then Lorenzo Carter, which is going to be their main outside linebacker pass rusher. He's a second-year kid. All the momentum's still there. Everything coming out of camp, he's holding his position, and he definitely has to be on the radar for an edge rusher or defensive line if he happens to be designated defensive line. When it comes to the Redskins, at the time that I did that one, Reuben Foster, I believe, had just been hurt. So we were looking at Mason Foster and trying to figure out who in the world was going to be next to Mason Foster. And It was the Sean Dion Hamilton. Mm-hmm. How this is played out, no problem. How this has been played out, they let Foster go. Now we're looking at Dion Sean Hamilton and John Bostic. I did a little blurb on John Bostic being there as well, but at the time it didn't look like he was going to have much of a chance until they released Mason Foster. So as it stands, Dion Sean Hamilton was the main guy I pointed out. He was instantly put into the lineup. He got a lot of playing time last year. He did pretty good. That's a productive position for the Washington Redskins. He is a little banged up right now. So it almost seems like John Bostic has more of a momentum to be an every down linebacker. We'll have to see how Dion Sean Thomason plays out. Then we'll just go right on to the Baltimore. It was like going through their core players. Back when I wrote that was some question about Young and Board splitting time next to Patrick Onswalzer. And I wanted to make sure that everybody understood that I think that Tony Jefferson at the strong safety, considering who his linebackers are going to be in front of him, I think Tony Jefferson's going to return to relevancy because he was really relevant in the Arizona Cardinals scheme back when he was really becoming a big name. But as soon as he got traded, or as soon as he signed with Baltimore, I tried to warn people, don't expect those kinds of numbers. And he has not returned to that form. So it's just by scheme and having Mosley in front of him and what his situation was. I think it's going to change this year. I think with the situation of the two linebackers in front of him, he's going to get a boost, and I actually have him up a lot higher in my rankings, I believe, than most people. And then, of course, Earl Thomas. So the big news is right now, it looks like Young has got the advantage to play next to Osweiler. Board is still his name, Chris Board. That was the question, was this rotational remark that Harbaugh made. It's still in play. The kid's kind of hurt. I think he just came out of concussion, so he's not been able to play much in the last couple of preseasons. But to Young's advantage, Young has taken advantage of that playing time without Board in a rotation, and Young's got the momentum. So that's just really an update on that. Patrick Osweiler and Jefferson would probably still remain my two main guys if I was targeting off of Baltimore right now.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Well, yeah, that pretty much wraps up all of the dime drops, gives everybody an update. You know, I listened to all those back in the day. I guess most of them have been out for a couple of months, so I've been, privy to them.
I've got some of them out 6 months now. I tried to get that edge early in the season for you folks. I tried to.
Yep. So that's good to get an update on all these guys. Like I said, I got some on my roster. I got some I'm washing for week 1. But aside from that, I guess we'll go ahead and we'll wrap up the show here. I guess, thank you, Steve. You're in the background. You guys don't see Steve, but Steve, he kind of takes care of me and Gary.
We're trying to pull him out. We might shock you guys in the next few weeks, and we might be hearing from Steve. So
yeah, we might get Steve on a live or get him on the get
his voice out there.
Yeah, we hear he pops into our ears every now and then. So we love him. We appreciate everything he does for us. Guys, have a good weekend, I guess. Enjoy watching that college football. Right. And, tomorrow you're going to wake up. Tomorrow's the last Sunday you'll wake up, with that empty feeling in your stomach. Yeah. Because a week from tomorrow you're going to wake up. It's going to be like, it's Christmas Day. I mean, it's Christmas Day for like us adult men. I'm so excited. I can't even begin to describe it. So tomorrow we'll be on for the Sunday IDP Live. I mean, I guess this drops tonight, but, if you can find us there, guys, we'll be doing the live stream. I don't really have anything else to say, Gary. I guess I'll let you kind of close us out.
Yeah, we're going to have, I believe it's Dennis Bennett. He's going to be returning to the Sunday IDP Live. You might know him as a culture coach out there, and he's part of the FTF pod network, which we're members of, and we're looking forward to having him back on the show again. So, I want to say the same thing. Hey, enjoy football, enjoy your college games, and, hey, man, NFL next week, folks. It's time.
It's here.
Everybody, have a good one.
Take it easy.